Well, hello, everybody. And before you ask, no, your time machines did not malfunction. We're not in the 1980s, I hate to say. It's 2024 and it's Vice Week. So, welcome in to the Paws Up preview as we get you ready for FIU football taking on the Sam Houston State Bearkats on Vice Night. So, I am Jake Gibson, looking a little bit cooler than usual. That is my friend and co-host Kevin Burrell, also with the shades. And first thing, Kevin, you have to appreciate the outfit, the blazer, the jersey, the shades. You're like halfway there, you know.
Now you got to live up to the hype and show up pretty fly
Yeah.
to the game and not press box. And I may show up pretty fly as well too. So
I wish I had a the white blazer. It would tie everything together. But say la vie. We have a lot to talk about, Kevin. We have to start off with what the hell happened last week as FIU dropped the ball against the UTEP Miners. Now, it's a fresh week, and a lot happened in that game that I need you to confirm with us, specifically the injuries to Keywan Jenkins and Amari Jones. Now, you spoke with Mike McIntyre at the presser earlier today. This was recorded on Friday, October the 18th. So before we get into anything else, what is the status of both Lights and Amari?
Yeah, so first with Keywan Jenkins suffered a left shoulder contusion in the second quarter of that game. Came on the play where he was trying to make that tackle on Dorian Hopkins when he threw the interception, which he took back 84 yards. And he did not practice today, but again, I think it needs to be noted. When I say they did not practice, and again, this is on Friday, there was no pads. It was a light practice. It was almost a walkthrough, to be honest with you. So that was the practice. Keywan should be practicing on Saturday, the next day. So the expectation is that he will play, and I believe he will start that game. So the expectation is Keywan Jenkins will start the game against Sam Houston. So that's the good news. The bad news is on Amari Jones, which he suffered an AC joint sprain on his non-throwing arm in the fourth quarter of that game. So we'll see what happens. Again, did not practice. We'll see if he does tomorrow. We didn't get full clarification that he will practice. So we'll see what the case is with him. Obviously, if he can't go, it'll be Hayden Carlson most likely backing him up. Him and Chaden Peary both split the first team reps today in practice. So those are your injury updates for FIU, obviously. Big ones for Sam Houston, which I know you'll dive into with Ben.
We'll get into that
here. So, yeah, man. I mean, really, I think FIU dodged a bullet. That Keywan injury did not look very good. I would be curious to know if there was any thought about bringing him back in the game and what ended up being the deciding factor that he didn't. Probably should have asked that. It's on me.
Oh, you didn't now? Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, Keywan's going to be starting on ViceNet. I think the momentum to a certain extent is maybe on FIU's side. You know, Sam Houston is kind of torn down a little bit with the injuries. Same thing goes with FIU. I mean, and I think it needs to be noted, Jake, maybe we could get into this, but a little bit, but Conference USA, I love the folks that work over there, but horrible scheduling on their part for this game. You play on a Wednesday, and then you're going to play on Tuesday. Doesn't give any chance for guys.
That's in a full week.
Now think about it. We'll talk about it. Hunter Watson's I'm pretty sure he's going to be out for this game. That's what it seems like. He's going to be out.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if this game was on a Saturday per se, you're looking at something different. Maybe you're looking at Keywan, Hunter Watson, Amari Jones, and even Noah Smith, their wide receiver, all healthy for that game. Fully healthy, 100% healthy. Because you got to ask yourself, how hurt is Keywan still? It seems, and I know we saw him today. I saw him today, and he didn't have any sling on or anything, so he seemed fine. So yeah, in my opinion, not very good scheduling by the conference there for that one. And
now
that goes for both teams. They both played on Wednesday.
They did. Now, 6 days of practice leading up to a game is not great. However, that does happen in the NFL from time to time. You have a Monday night game. You play the following Sunday. That's also 6 days. But regardless, yeah, it sucks. But again, both teams knew this way ahead of time. So, and obviously injuries happen during the game. But Kevin, I want to ask you the vibes right now for the players, for head coach Mike McIntyre. They have to be a little shot after what we witnessed last week. To even taking away the injuries to both Jenkins and Carlson, you lost to the winless UTEP Miners in the Sun Bowl. Granted, it's a place they don't historically have good success in, but even regardless of who was the passer, it felt like things should have gone right for FIU that just didn't, such as their running game that we thought might pop off. You made that prediction. We're going to get a 100-yard rusher. Did not even come close to happening. And defensively, they looked okay at times. Skylar Locklear did not have an amazing game, but he did do just enough to win. But still, he gave up 30 points to the UTEP Miners. I feel like the vibes have to be shot a little bit.
I wouldn't say the defense looked okay. I think they looked really good, honestly. I mean, you look at those first 3 quarters. FIU's defense won those first 3 quarters easily. I mean, I think it was the fourth quarter where they're kind of torn down by then. They're worn down. The offense really wasn't giving them too much time to get things going. So you kind of think about it. And, I mean, the defense had to step up. Everyone knew that the offense would have their struggles once Keywan was out. Nothing against Amari Jones or Hayden Carlson. Just they haven't played this year, basically. I mean, Hayden Carlson hadn't taken a snap in all of 2024. Last game he took a snap was in 23. So, yeah, defense I think looked really good. We have to talk about JoJo Evans, who had 19 total tackles, third most in a single game, tied for third most in program history in a single game. Super cool for him. I don't think he's ever had that many tackles, he said, even in high school. Now, it has to be noted, as a safety, he is being used in a lot of run packages. So I know you'd be thinking, maybe those tackles came after 8 or 9 rushing yards of a runner. Some of them did, of course, but a lot of them didn't. A lot of them came into him being used in run packages. So it has to be noted that he's doing that. And then obviously he had the forced fumble in that game too, and almost had a pick 6, which would have been big.
It would have changed the game.
100%. So, yeah, I think the defense was fine. Offensively, I would have liked to see them run the ball a little bit more. I mean, you had Keyshawn Owens and Flex, who had both come off pretty good games against Liberty, and I would have liked to see them maybe run it a little bit more. The passing game, it was going to be hard to get it going, but Amari was able to connect there with Eric Rivers. I don't think he connected with Dean. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely tough. There's no other way to put it. Nazavai Burris had a really nice game. I like what I saw. The usage of Shaborn Demps was really fun to watch. And
Demps, I love Demps.
In the jet sweep.
Yes.
I think it does need to be noted that I do think UTEP found it was pretty obvious when they put Demps in there. If it wasn't for the jet sweep, they were going to get the ball to him. He's not used that much. He's used in certain packages. And I think UTEP realized that pretty quickly, and that's how they were able to counter it in the fourth quarter. So I would be interested to see how Sam Houston's going to counter it. Now, again, Sam Houston, we'll talk about more about them. They struggle against the pass. They're not a good passing offense to begin with. So, and it's not going to be much easier. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot that went right for FIU. Obviously, the quarterback changes, 3 of them, was not easy to come by, but I think it comes back to the defense in terms of stopping the run. They weren't able to stop the run. And when you go entering the game, Jake, we're talking about, I mean, if this FIU team could stop the UTEP run, you feel pretty good because UTEP's rush offense entering the game was one of the worst in Conference USA.
Yes.
So you got to ask yourself, it's just like, if you can't stop UTEP's rush offense, can you stop Sam Houston's, which is arguably the best in Conference USA? So that'll be interesting to see. Now you're losing 500 yards of rushing with Hunter Watson. So we'll see how it happens.
Yeah. So back to the UTEP game, the limited amount of plays we saw from Keywan Jenkins, he looked good. I think he looked pretty good. FIU started that game off so hot off of that blocked punt, which they immediately cashed in for a touchdown. You just had to feel that, FIU might sail away here. They might just head out of the Sun Bowl with a breeze of a win. Now, I think I talked about this with you in the post game, Kevin. It's what would have happened if Jenkins had never gotten injured in that pick 6. We've had some time to think, some time to reflect. I feel like FIU would have gotten the job done if Jenkins had not gotten injured because FIU was winning that game late by a single point. They did. Keyshawn Owens had that really great run, he had that great run. He broke that dude's ankles, which I think was still an amazing play, Kev. But no, I think FIU woulda, coulda, shoulda. I get it. They were up 1 point at the start of the fourth quarter, actually late in the third, and things just didn't work out for them for the end. And Hayden Carlson was put into such an unbelievably difficult spot there at the end. And, you have to feel for him. He threw 2 interceptions. The last one sealed the game. But I never would have expected the disastrous result we had at the quarterback position to happen. I think FIU themselves were not ready for it when it happened. And I don't know.
And it also needs to be noted, UTEP was coming off of you. What were you gonna say, Jake?
Amari Jones. We talked about it. He wasn't able to pass as much as I think either of us would have liked to have seen him pass, Kevin. When Hayden got the ball, he pretty much could pass however much he wanted. But I don't know. I also feel like we really should have seen Amari fling the ball more than he actually did.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, what I was going to say, I was losing my train of thought there. UTEP was playing at the Sun Bowl, national TV. Those boys were playing for Scotty Walden. There's no other way to say it. Those boys were going out here and playing for Scotty Walden. They were pumped. Look at the celebration after, and I got to give credit to UTEP. It was good. It was a good night for UTEP fans. Obviously, you follow that team leading up to the game. Your feed has a lot of UTEP stuff, and that's what it was for me for like a couple hours after the game. And I was trying not to look at it, not trying to interact with it, but you kind of look really quickly in the end. Yeah, I mean, good for them, man. I've said it multiple times that Scotty Walden, I'm a huge fan of what he's doing, what he's going to do, what he's capable of doing. I'm super pumped for that guy, that program, and they deserved it. They really played out. They played their hearts out. They were the better team that day. But I think with a healthy Key-One, things could have been different.
If UTEP doesn't win another game this season, it's going to sting even more. If their only win this season was against FIU, it's gonna make this all a more depressing matter because, by the way, UTEP hosts Kennesaw State on November 9th, so we'll see what happens there, Kevin. We'll see what happens. That should be a fun game, low key. 2 bad teams going at it, UTEP and Kennesaw. That should be fun.
Yeah, man, we can't say we can't even say that. So
I'm just objectively speaking, but now FIU football has put themselves in such a precarious situation, Kevin. They have a 2-5 record. And again, you need to win 6 games to go bowling. That gives them very little wiggle room for the latter end of the season. You start off with Sam Houston, who we're going to talk about in a second. You then host New Mexico State, which I would say is a winnable game, but after we lost to UTEP, I don't think either of us can really say that anymore. You have to go to Jacksonville, Alabama. You have to go to Kennesaw, which again I would say is winnable, but I don't know. I don't know how charitable.
Honestly, that's we'll talk.
I don't know how charitable FIU will be feeling that day to give Kennesaw their first FBS win, and then you close out the series against Middle Tennessee. Middle Tennessee has had an up and down season. The fact of the matter is that this loss to UTEP, the loss to Monmouth, and even the loss to Liberty, because they had a chance to win there, are really going to haunt this Panthers team as they try to make that push to not just to get the 6 wins to become bowl eligible, but to get to 4 wins to even match what they did the last couple of seasons. I mean, it's tough to say, but Mike McIntyre, this team, they have such a tough task to even get to 4 wins, let alone 6, that from a realist's perspective, I just don't know if they can do it anymore, Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about margin for error, and maybe the win against Sam Houston would kind of flip that for me a little bit because when I kind of looked at the schedule, I told myself you need to go 4-2.
Mm-hmm.
It would be a win against UTEP,
yes,
New Mexico State, Kennesaw, and Middle Tennessee, with a loss to Sam Houston and Jack State, which is feasible. I don't know, man. I mean, you're going to have to make up a win somehow, and it's going to be tough against Sam Houston, who's a really good rushing offense. Then you have an even better rushing offense in Jack State, and you're playing at Jacksonville, Alabama. It's not very easy. Jack State is a really good team. They have gotten it going. Their quarterback, Tyler Huff, is an absolute stud. That guy has a cannon of an arm. That guy has some legs that can move very quickly. They have a great rush attack. They have some really fast wide receivers. We'll get into that, obviously, when the time comes. But Sam Houston's probably your best shot at making up a win. And
Yes.
Obviously, they're out with Watson. They're out with Smith. So you're losing 500 yards there of rush. You're losing a lot of nice plays and big receiving yards with Smith, who kind of torched FIU last time around. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think 4 is still feasible. I think you're going to win 2 games somewhere. I think Kennesaw's an automatic win. Still got dude. Look, UTEP is bad, but Kennesaw is they're really bad. I mean,
I'll say this: if FIU can beat Sam Houston, they can beat just about everyone else that they have to play. Jacksonville's going to be a hellhole. It's not going to be fun for FIU. But if they have what it takes to beat Sam Houston this upcoming week, then they can do it. It's just such a precarious situation because, it's funny. I think before the season began, we made our season predictions, right? Johnny and I both had FIU losing to UTEP, which is crazy. But I didn't think it would be
under this. You look back at that? Oh, interesting.
I didn't think it would be under this scenario, though. I mean, I had them going 7-5, and that's off the table. I think actually, technically, it's not off the table. But
they won every single game. They're going 7-5.
They could. Just the fact of the matter is, what we wanted before the season was for this team to get to 6 wins. And if you beat, in a perfect world, you beat Monmouth, you certainly beat UTEP. And then you somehow shock the world and beat Louisiana Tech. You have 5 wins.
I mean Liberty.
That's what I meant. Did I say Louisiana Tech? They already took care of business there. If you beat Liberty, you're at 5 wins. If you beat FAU, which I still think was a game that FIU could have won if they weren't as sloppy as they were, you're already at 6. You're already at 6 wins. You're probably vying for a spot in the CUSA championship game in a perfect world, Kevin Brawl. But that's not the perfect world we live in. We live in a world where it's kind of perfect because you get to wear these cool Vice colors for a week. But it stings. It stings. I mean, if they don't get to 4 wins at the very least, what do you do?
I mean, look, let's be realistic. Not realistic. Let's do the best case and the worst case. The worst case, honestly, you win 1 more game.
Kennesaw,
and you finish the season 3-9, which we will talk about that, obviously, the last game of the season, depending what happens. The best case scenario is you beat Sam Houston and you get the rest of the wins. And you only lose into Jack State and you're in the bowl game. And
you're 6-6.
6-6.
Which is great. I mean, you get to go you get to go to the postseason. It's something FIU hasn't done since 2019. You're breaking a very, very long streak here, and I know it's something that Mike McIntyre and this entire team have been wanting to do for a long time now. But I just can't tell the difference between realistic, unrealistic, and what's actually going to happen anymore, Kevin. Who knows? All right, Kevin, are you ready to see something amazing? I was wearing my glasses the whole time. I need to take off the glasses because we need to get into our opponent for realsies this time. The Sam Houston State Bearkats. What a turnaround, Kevin. Last season, we were clowning on these guys. Granted, we were clowning on them super hard because they were just getting into conference. They were just getting into FBS. And they still put out a couple of wins to close out the season, something that, Kennesaw hasn't done yet. But so far, they've looked good. They had that tough loss to UCF in week 2. They blew out Rice. They blew out Hawaii. They blew out New Mexico State. Most of the games they win are blowouts, by the way. They blew out UTEP in the Sun Bowl.
I think Texas State's the one close game they played.
Texas State, that was the 1-point crazy game at NRG Stadium that they just edged them out in. So that was a great win for them. And they're coming off a tough loss to Western Kentucky. I thought that game was going to be a shootout for the ages. It just didn't turn into it. Western Kentucky.
I didn't like it. I believe what happened in that game was that Hunter Watson came out. They had to go with Central Michigan transfer Jesse Bauer, and then they basically gave it up in the 4th quarter. Is what I believe ended up happening. It was a very close game up until the 4th.
Yeah, everything spiraled in the 4th quarter. So, with all that said, they have a 5-2 record. They're 2-1. In the conference, and I think the most scary thing about this Sam Houston team, they're 2-1 on the road. They play pretty well in road games. The only road game they lost in was to UCF in Orlando, and that's a tough place to play. I mean, that's a power conference team. A lot of teams could lose over at the Orlando, not at the Bounce House, but at, what is it, FBC Mortgage Stadium. I think that's what they call it these days. So, but let's get into what we found out from Sam Houston's presser. It is expected, and again, we could be completely wrong with this, Kevin, and be fooled by the time game day rolls around, but it is expected that Hunter Watson, who I think is the heart and soul of their team, their leading passer and their leading rusher, a dual threat quarterback, which, I mean, you say that in FIU, you had flashbacks. A dual threat quarterback might not play in this game. So just they have Bauer, which I think is a pretty good backup, but still, that's a tough loss for a team that relies so much on this man.
Yeah, I mean, Hunter Watson right now amongst Conference USA, he is – I literally had it up. He is number
987 passing yards, 400.
He is fifth in rushing yards in the conference, and I believe he's at 500 yards. So they need to update this to conference. So he would be third in the conference in rushing yards. Okay. Passing yards, he's actually pretty high too. He's number 6, so not great. He's thrown 5 interceptions on the season, I believe. Yep. And then you look at overall numbers for Sam Houston. They're the third best rush offense, and they're the third best rushing defense. So this is a really good team. You look at last season, I believe it was 5 games that they lost by 1 score, 5 or 6 games. I mean, they should have won a lot of games. They should have beat Liberty. They should have beat a lot of teams, and unfortunately they didn't. I think their luck has gone the right way this year, and it's not even luck. It's blowing them out and playing really good offense. I mean, Hunter Watson is a huge quarterback. He's 6'3", 205. I mean, that you don't see that too often, 210.
Yes.
That guy's a monster. So JoJo Evans gave a lot of credit to what Watson's doing. He said he's a guy who's just going to tuck it and run. And again, Sam Houston, I mean, if he has to throw it, he has some great targets. But again, he's going to be out, and they're going to go with Jesse Bauer, who is a very pass-heavy guy. He was a starter at Central Michigan last year, transferred over to Sam Houston. I'm pretty sure he was going to get the job, and then all of a sudden Watson took it over. But Bauer played a little bit last week. I think he struggled against Western. I think he struggled, but Sam Houston has struggled to throw the ball this year, and they struggled to defend the pass. So FIU definitely has an edge when it comes to really passing the ball. And
to Watson's credit and discredit, 9 touchdowns is good. 5 interceptions, not that great. Sam Houston's offensive line has had their ups and downs because this man's been sacked 15 times this season.
Well, how many times has Keyone been sacked, man?
11, I want to say. Yeah, 11 times Jenkins has been sacked. Still, that's a lot to give up. And, I mean, again, you go into it. Reasons why he's probably not going to play in this game. Now, you also mentioned the other guy, Smith, Noah Smith. He had an amazing season last year already, and so far this season he's been okay, but he hasn't really been the heartbeat, or I should say, the biggest weapons that Sam Houston has at their disposal. You have players like DJ McKinney, who is having an absolutely tremendous season for them. Rushing wise, you have Jay Ducker, who I think has like 5 rushing touchdowns. He's their go-to guy when they get close to the red zone. And then we haven't even gotten into their receivers. You have Quavez Humphreys, who looks good. Simeon Evans, who looks good. I hate to say it, it's another run-heavy team. And by now, FIU's got to be sick of going up against these run-heavy teams because they just keep getting exposed after exposed after exposed when you take them on. And I hate to say it, you might see the same thing happen again against Sam Houston.
Yeah, it's definitely been tough for FIU against these run-heavy teams, and I think FIU should fare a little bit better against Sam Houston. I mean, against Liberty wasn't too bad, to be honest with you. I mean, they really limited what Caden Salter did, at least on the ground. They need to stop the run. That's just the key at this point. They really need to stop the damn run. They couldn't do it against UTEP. I don't know. I mean, you're running a 3-4. Maybe you have to run a 4-3. I don't know. I mean, something needs to change that they're unable to stop the run. And it's frustrating to a certain extent because you think you have a chance to do it against UTEP. You think you have a chance to do it against FAU. Same thing goes with Monmouth. They weren't a good running team. And, those were all losses. And FIU, I think that's the biggest issue on the defensive side of the ball. Now, again, they have some big dudes over there. And, I mean, they have a chance to stop it. I think they're able to do it. You have two great linebackers in EA, Elijah Anderson-Taylor, and Travion Barnes, who are having amazing seasons. You have safeties that are being used in run schemes, and those are working with JoJo and CJ. I think they have the ability to stop it. I really don't know what it is. Maybe these holes that the offensive lines are making are easier to go through the gaps. I don't know, but yeah, it's definitely been stressful. FIU's now 8th in the conference. I want to say, let me make sure I'm right with that. Yes, 8th in the conference in rush defense. And they're not really much better on the rushing offense. They're 9th.
Yeah.
So it's been a struggle, but I think FIU's momentum with the Pitbull Stadium, Vice, the unis, I think it should help a little bit. And I mean, I'm probably crazy for saying that, but momentum could go a long way is one thing I've heard. And I think it definitely helps. And FIU is looking for a win, and they're trying to spoil Sam Houston's chance, not only to make the conference tournament, but to not make a bowl game that day, not be bowl eligible.
Yeah. You know what's a matchup I want to see, Kevin? I want to see Caleb Weaver versus Eric Rivers at either at left side or right side. Weaver, he's got to be their best defensive player. It's very rare when you see a defensive back lead the team in tackles, but that's the case for the Bearkats. 47 total tackles, 37 solo, and 3 interceptions, and a forced fumble too. Man, this guy is scary. He leads a pretty solid Sam Houston defense that, granted, like you had mentioned, ran out of gas against Western Kentucky at the end of that game. But still, regardless of that, they look good. And they're going to be, again, another tough defense that, again, hopefully Jenkins is going to be playing in this game, but he's going to be tested regardless of what he does.
Definitely. This is a good defense. Overall, the 3rd best defense in Conference USA behind, I believe, Jack's behind Liberty and La Tech, which still has the best defense in the conference. So not an easy task whatsoever. FIU was able to do some stuff against La Tech's defense, so that was the best at the time. So feel pretty good with what Sam Houston provides. And you obviously mentioned who their leading tackler is. And number 2, I believe, is also a defensive back, I want to say, Trey Fields. No, he's a linebacker.
He's a linebacker, yeah. He has 43, though. That ain't bad.
6 foot, 215 pounds. So, I mean, look, this is the same Houston team also that has a lot of interceptions on the season. They're already 4, 5, 6.
7
interceptions, 7 on the season. So they're a team that's going to cause a lot of havoc on defense, a lot of turnovers, and they already have a lot of forced fumbles as well, I want to say. So we'll see. They have 8 of them, yeah. So it's not going to be an easy night for FIU, and they're going to have to – ball security is going to be key. FIU's had 2 straight games with at least 1 fumble. In the Liberty game to lose it, and then now in this other one, I believe against UTEP, they also had a fumble. So yeah, ball security is going to be crucial for FIU, and FIU's offensive line really needs to step it up, and the penalties need to stop. I think the coaches are, saying that too. I mean, you have to just play a little smarter, I think, because if not, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. Now, there are some pretty bad calls overall in that last game. The Travion Barnes penalty, was horse hockey. So yeah, we'll see. But FIU definitely has a shot to get something going against this defense. They don't. If I'm FIU, I'm trying to pass the ball a lot more, and I think that's like the key to the game right there. Go pass heavy. Now, if you see an opportunity to run, you take it, but they're gonna have to go pass heavy. And FIU's offensive line is pretty much held up for most of the game, so it's just a matter of obviously the holding calls, try to limit those, and the false starts, which
the pre-snap,
FIU, the pre-snap penalties have actually been pretty light this season for FIU. It's been a lot of the holding penalties, and yeah.
The 12 men on the field, by the way, in that game against UTEP, it didn't even matter. They still couldn't stop UTEP's offense at the ones, but still, that was crazy to see that 12-man penalty there.
Yeah.
Be on the lookout for Chris Murray. 3.5 sacks so far this season. He can get to the quarterback. Again, you mentioned FIU does not give up a whole lot of sacks, but when they do, they're massive. So again, it's going to be a tough test for Sam Houston, or for FIU to go up against Sam Houston. And that was a game last season that FIU barely won when Sam Houston was still figuring things out in overtime. So
yeah,
it's going to be tough.
Actually, funny enough, today marks a year since that game. I know. Yeah. It came up for me today, so I saw that. I was like, oh, nice. And funny enough, I mean, I know you're going to do it around FIU athletics with men's soccer. It's going to mark a year since that game against FAU. So the day of that game. So yeah, it's pretty pretty funny stuff overall.
I'm very impressed at the turnaround that Casey Keeler has had on this Sam Houston team, turning them from one of the laughing stocks of college football into a bona fide contender. If they win, if Sam Houston, if they make it to the conference championship game and win, they might have done enough to maybe get a playoff spot. It's going to be tough.
No,
I think
you have Navy and Army. Boise State is still
oh my God,
Liberty
Navy and Army, they look so freaking good.
Liberty continues to make a case no matter what. Unfortunately, I just don't see it. Maybe next year, but not.
I guess at this point, Liberty just has to win out and then win the championship, and then maybe the committee will throw them a bone. But We'll see. Alrighty, let's get into some more discussion with Sam Houston State as we welcome Ben Sorrells from March to the Pod for our guest this week. Ben and the whole group there at March to the Pod do some great work covering Sam Houston. They've been doing it for a while, and they're again one of the bona fide members of the Conference USA podcast roundtable. So without further ado, let's welcome Ben Sorrells to the show and see what's going on in the world of Sam Houston. Okay, everybody, we hope you're enjoying the Paws Up preview so far. Now it's time to get into our opponent this week, the Sam Houston State Bearkats. And joining me right now is Ben Sorrells from March to the Pod. They do amazing work covering Sam Houston State, who's been on a tear. So, Ben, thank you so much for stopping on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Exciting matchup coming up on a Tuesday night, Vice Night, Pitbull Stadium. So we're looking forward to seeing our guys down there in Miami.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. The vibes are high. It should be a fun time. And I wanted to ask you about just Sam Houston. They did not have a great start to their FBS journey last season, but Casey Keeler has really turned things around, and now they're a contender for the conference championship. Just talk about how he's been able to do it so far and just the aspirations of making it to the postseason.
Yeah, Keeler's a great coach. I think he was listed as one of the top 100 coaches in college football history by ESPN a few years ago. So he knows how to win. And this was a team that won consistently at a very high level at the FCS level, won an FCS national title right before the transition started. And so last year, I think the team thought they were ready to compete. I think they had enough talent at the starting positions to get it done, but the depth was just obviously a concern, which a lot of teams have moving from the FCS to FBS level. Yeah. Not every team is like a James Madison to where they're going to come in and compete right away. So there were some growing pains, but I think the talent was there. And then I think you've added the talent on top of the depth this year, and you've got a team that can really compete at the G5 level. I think we were able to compete for a conference championship right now. We got to play at a high level to do it, but the talent and depth that this team has is much improved from last year, especially on the depth side. And Casey Keeler's a winner. He knows how to win. He knows how to get things done. So he's a great coach, and he's done a great job, and it's been a great season so far for Sam Houston.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're only one win away from becoming bowl eligible, and that's the bare minimum for how their season can go. So, yeah, exciting things ahead of Sam Houston. I love it. So far this season, they're either winning from blowouts, like very comfortable wins, or that absolutely that nail biter against Texas State, which was super fun to watch. However, they kind of tripped up against Western Kentucky. It was close heading into the fourth quarter, and then things kind of fell out of control. What did you see there that ultimately gave Western the win?
Yeah, I think it was probably the worst game we've played all year. I think Sam Houston is a team that when they play well, they can probably beat anyone in the conference. But if they don't play up to their ceiling, they're going to get beat by good teams like Western Kentucky. And we saw that. 2 kickoffs out of bounds, giving them good field position, missing 2 field goals that we usually make. That's at least 6 points right there. A couple busted coverages, which were very uncharacteristic of our guys, especially coming out of a bye week. So didn't play well. And then on top of that, you lose your starting quarterback for the rest of the game, and Hunter Watson coming out right before halftime. So that was a big loss. The team had scored on 2 of their last 3 drives going into the half, 2 touchdowns on their last 3 drives in the first half. And so losing him kind of really hurt the momentum as well. So, and Western's a good team. Western Kentucky is a very good team. And I think if we played up to our potential, I think we should have won, but we didn't. And if you don't do that against a good team like Western Kentucky, they're going to beat you. And that's what happened.
Yeah. Consider me thankful that that's the one team FIU does not have to play this season, being Western Kentucky. No, but Sam Houston still looks really good. I think they have a pretty favorable schedule up until the last two games, two big tests, and Jacksonville State on the road, and then hosting Liberty to close out the regular season. Should be fun. And the way Conference USA is right now, there's a chance we could see a rematch between Sam Houston and Western in the championship game.
It's still very, very wide open. The FIU game is going to be tough, especially with it looking like we're not going to have Hunter Watson. Obviously not 100% sure there, but it looks like he's probably going to be out for at least this week.
Yeah.
But so it's going to be a tough one, short week on the road. But then Louisiana Tech and Kennesaw, two very winnable games. Jacksonville State's going to be tough, but then you get Liberty at home on a short week to close the year. So there's still a shot if you win out. You're definitely going to have a chance, but you're going to have to probably win out to get there. Not unreasonable, but we'll see if it can happen.
Aside from that, the only other loss was in UCF, and I mean UCF is a damn good team. So I mean, take it with a grain of salt. Now, I'm glad you mentioned Watson. I mean, he's their leading passer and their leading rusher, but he was sidelined in that Western game, and now the word is he might not play in this game. So just talk a bit about what Watson meant to this offense and how they worked, and what would a Sam Houston offense look like without him?
Yeah, so, I mean, we'll see what it looks like without him for a full game plan, what that looks like, because he's been the starter every game this year. But an offense with Hunter Watson had really started to find its identity. A Sam Houston offense the last 2 seasons that didn't really have an identity started to really find it this year with Hunter Watson. Coming into the Western Kentucky game, we had 4 straight games of 250-plus rushing yards, and we're probably on track for another game like that if Watson would have been in there the whole game. So losing him was a big deal. I think we might see them air it out a little bit more under Jace Bauer, assuming he's the guy that's starting. Bauer's a run threat, not as much of a run threat as Watson, so maybe we see him air it out a little bit more. So going to be a little bit of a game plan change, but I love our offensive identity under Watson when he is under center. Can do just enough throwing the ball, and he's really going to hurt you with his legs with the weapons we have in the backfield.
Yeah, I mean, the quarterback competition between him and Jace Bauer before the season was electric, and obviously Watson got the job. So, I mean, we've seen a very limited amount of Bauer, and you mentioned he's more of a passer than he is a runner, but still, what would you say about his leadership and how he can handle the role of starting a very important game?
Yeah, I mean, I think getting him reps this week is going to be big. He's going to look better than he did in the second half against Western Kentucky, and this is a guy that led Central Michigan to 3 or 4 wins as their starter last year.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a very good Central Michigan team, and he went about 500 as the starter. So he's got experience. He's done it before. Offense is going to look a little different, and hopefully, assuming he's the guy this week, they can get him all the reps and practice that he needs, and he'll be ready to go for the game against FIU. He's proved he can do it at this level, and hopefully he can do it again on Tuesday if he's the guy.
I will say, for FIU, not having to face a dual-threat quarterback definitely works in the favor of the way they've struggled with pretty much every single dual-threat quarterback they've taken on this season, most recently Caden Salter. You also have Cam Fancher for FAU. But regardless, you still have some playmakers on offense. However, again, something that's a little bit concerning is Noah Smith, who, again, might not play in this upcoming game. So who are some of the other weapons that Sam Houston will need to look to if that's the case that Smith cannot make it?
Yeah, Smith, he was the first team all-conference guy, just to hit on him real quick. And his numbers haven't been great this year, but teams give him so much attention, and he's in motion on almost every single play. So he's been a threat, even though the numbers haven't been that great. So with him likely being out for this week, it'll be a second straight missed game. Simeon Evans is the guy that started in his place against Western Kentucky. He had a big 50-yard touchdown catch, so look for him to kind of fill in for Noah Smith. The running backs that have kind of taken on the lead role are Jay Ducker and DJ McKinney, so look for a lot of them out of the backfield in the run game. And then also at receiver, Quavez Humphreys and Ife Adeyi are probably the other 2 names to watch. Between Adeyi, Humphreys, and Evans, those are probably going to be your starting 3 receivers for Sam Houston. And then at the tight end position, we started to see Elijah Sohn come on. He had a really nice game against Western Kentucky, his biggest game of the year. So those are some of the weapons to watch with Smith being out this week, probably.
And this Sam Houston offense, it's a very mixed group. And when I say mixed, I mean they do well passing and they do well rushing. And so far, that's been headlined by Hunter Watson, who has looked very reliable, over 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. You even have Jay Ducker with 5 touchdowns, who I'm assuming is kind of their specialist for when they get in the red zone near the goal line. You send him in, and he gets the job done. Talking a bit about their running attack and what you can expect from them.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how heavily they lean into the run game now with
Yeah.
Watson being out, because they didn't lean into it as much in the second half with Bauer in there last week.
Yeah.
But the running attack, Jay Ducker's kind of taken on the lead role. He's a guy that was the MAC Freshman of the Year in 2021 at Northern Illinois, was Memphis's leading rusher in 2022, and then last year was really hampered by injuries and took a red shirt. And he had an ankle injury in training camp, so he kind of came on a little late to start the year. But the last month of the season, he's been your true lead back. And then DJ McKinney has gotten a lot of reps as well. McKinney had a huge night against UTEP. I think it was 138 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he's come on strong as well, the redshirt freshman. He's more of a speed threat, going to try to get outside and just beat you with the speed. But I love his game. So, and then Bauer can run a little bit. So, I mean, he's not what Watson is, but he did have 10 rushing touchdowns at Central Michigan last year. A lot of that was kind of just goal line, run it in from the 1 yard line kind of thing, but he can run it a little bit as well. So we'll see what the rush attack looks like without Watson, but I expect them to lean into it a little bit still.
Moving on over to the defense now, I think it's very rare when a defensive back leads the team in tackles. But that's just kind of the player that Caleb Weaver is and what he brings to this team. 47 totals, not to mention 3 interceptions. They have a very scary secondary over there in Sam Houston.
Yeah, it's a great secondary. Weaver is a guy who started as a walk-on, is now in his 4th year at Sam Houston, 2nd year as a starter, and has just really continued to blossom. He's just incredible. It feels like he's always around the ball. Some other names at the DB position: Isaiah Cash, Houston Christian transfer. He's been really good for us in the secondary. Jalen Jimerson, he's a guy that probably would have started at Liberty this year, but transferred to Sam Houston, be a little closer to home for his final year. He's been great there at the nickel position. And then your 2 corners, Davion Armstead and David Fisher, have been your starters for 2 years now, and they're pretty good, reliable guys out there at corner. And the DB group has been the strength of the defense all year, but we did see them have some missed assignments against Western Kentucky. Coach Keeler talked about that in his post-game press conference, that it was very uncharacteristic of them to have those mistakes. So hopefully they can get back on track, because that back 5 of the defense has been the strength so far this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure FIU is watching a lot of film from that Western game just to see how they can have a shot at getting 30 points. You know, it's funny. We were talking about this could be the battle of starting or backup quarterbacks. However, it does look like Jenkins is going to be good to go for this game. So we'll see how it goes there. And talk a bit about that defensive line and their ability to stop the run. That's something I'm very interested in. FIU has not had a great season so far running the ball. What can they do against Sam Houston?
Yeah, the D-line's been really good, especially on the edge. Things have gotten a little thin on the interior. You lost maybe your best interior D-lineman in the Texas State game, Matthew Arabasala, to a broken leg. So you lost him. You've had a couple of other guys banged up, but I think they're okay. They've got enough on the interior. I think it's on the edge is where the defense is really strong on the D-line. Yeah. You've got Chris Murray, who leads the team in sacks with 6 or 7 sacks. He's been incredible this year, transferred in from TCU 2 years ago. You've got Javon Leon, who's been a big part of this team since the national championship run. He's been really good. And then some other names to watch: Isaiah Nixon, Bryson Hayes, Kendrick Dior. They rotate 6 to 8 guys depending on the night there at the edge spots. So a lot of different threats on the edge. I think we've got enough on the interior to continue to play well. But, I mean, we pose some matchup problems there on the edge with some of the guys we have.
Alrighty then. So I believe at this moment, Sam Houston's still a pretty big road favorite over FIU. So I'll ask you this, Ben. If FIU were to win this game, and I know they might have some momentum on their side, you know, it's Vice Night, nationally televised game and all that, but still, once you get into the gridiron, what must Sam Houston do correctly to avoid an upset against FIU?
I think you have to play clean. That is not what you did against Western Kentucky. Kickoffs were bad, 2 kickoffs out of bounds. Bauer fumbled a snap deep in our own territory that gave Western Kentucky the ball. They just went right down and scored, only had about 20 yards to go. The special teams was just not good, especially in the kicking game. Snaps, holds, kind of all around, just wasn't very good. The coverages weren't great. So I think you just got to play clean. You got to kick the ball in bounds. You got to not turn the ball over. You got to find a way to make kicks that you're supposed to make. And I think if you can do that, you'll be okay. You've shown that when you play up to your level, you can play with anyone in this conference. And so just got to play our game. I think that's the big thing.
Alrighty, Ben, thank you so much for spending some time with me today talking a bit about Sam Houston. If you could go ahead and drop your socials, your ats for both yourself and March to the Pod so that FIU fans can see how you guys are handling for this matchup.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, you can find our podcast, March to the Pod. Should be right there on the screen, March number 2, the Pod. That's our podcast with me and Corey that we run. We're a part of the Republic of Football Network. And then my personal page is Sports of SHSU. You can find me on both Twitter and Instagram. And so that's definitely the place to go to find me personally, everything I do there. So, yeah, March to the Pod, Sports of SHSU. Also on the board of our NIL Collective Cat Fund. So you can find everything there at Cat Fund. So a lot of good things we got going on, a lot of good content.
Alrighty, Ben, again, thanks so much for spending some time. Now let's get back into the remainder of the Paws Up preview as myself and Kevin go over what you need to know around FIU athletics this week in Conference USA and game picks. All right. That was Ben Sorrells from March to the Pod. Be sure to go give them a follow on all socials, see how they're handling themselves as they get ready to head to this game, get ready for the insane amount of neon pink and blue they're about to come across. And maybe even the man himself, maybe even we don't know, but it would be cool to see Pitbull. And I don't mean Pit Bill. I mean
Pitbull.
I know. So alrighty then, it's time to get into the latter end of the show. Let's start off with around FIU athletics, and Kevin, it's going to get a little longer here to see what's going on in the 305 because you now have beach volleyball starting up, and then you have basketball not that far away. So let's take a look here and see what we got. As always, we're starting off with men's soccer. At the time of recording, they have a 4-4-4 record. As they're coming off a pair of draws to both Charlotte and TCU. We'll see how they do against FAU on Sunday. Fingers crossed it's going to be awesome. They only have 2 games to go in the regular season. After that, they're going to be at Temple on Saturday, October the 26th. That's going to be on ESPN+. And then they close out the season on senior night against the Memphis Tigers on Friday, November the 1st at 7 p.m. So definitely be sure to pack Leyva Family Field. And then after that, it's postseason time. You get into the American Championship Tournament. That's on Friday, November the 8th, and will last all the way to Saturday, November the 16th. Next up is women's soccer, who have a 10-3 record and have won at the time of recording 7 straight. That includes their most recent win over in Huntsville against Sam Houston, 3-1. At the time of recording, we'll see how they did when they head to Kennesaw State on Sunday. But after that, 3 straight matches at Leyva Family Field to close out the regular season for women's soccer. You have that rescheduled game against UTEP. That's going to be on Thursday, October the 24th. They take on Western Kentucky on Sunday, October the 27th. And then Jacksonville State on Thursday, October the 31st. But you knew all this if you watched our recent episode with Noemi. Shout out Noemi. That was a fun one. So best of luck to women's soccer before they host the Conference USA tournament starting on Wednesday, November the 6th and lasting to Sunday, November the 10th. Next up is indoor volleyball, who have a 2-17 record. They're currently on a 9-game losing streak following a pair of losses to Western Kentucky. They will be taking on New Mexico State this weekend. And then next week, on Friday, October the 25th and Saturday, October the 27th, they'll be at the Ocean Bank Convocation Center to take on Kennesaw State. Both those games are on ESPN+. The Friday game's at 6 o'clock, and then the Kennesaw State game is at 1 o'clock. Or the Saturday game is at 1 o'clock. Moving on to swimming and diving, they're coming off that very solid meet in the TYR Fall Classic where they finished in first place. They knocked off a bunch of Florida teams. It always feels good when they do that. They're going to be taking on SMU on Saturday, October the 26th at 10 a.m. That's at the Biscayne Bay Aquatic Center. And then beach volleyball is set to get things going. It's going to be a tough season. A lot of road competitions here and there. They're going to be this weekend taking on FAU over at Boca Raton. They're going to be taking on Florida Gulf Coast as well. It's just a whole tournament with FAU, FGCU, and even Palm Beach Atlantic making an appearance after that. They're going to be taking on the University of Tampa as well as Florida Gulf Post in the city of Tampa from October the 26th to the 27th. That's an amazing group over there at beach volleyball. We wish them the very best as they look to have another outstanding season. So it took a little longer than usual. A lot of sports firing up on all cylinders here, Kevin.
That's good, though.
That I know. It means that we're getting into the meat and potatoes of the fall semester, if you will.
Yeah.
So now let's get into what has happened last week in Conference USA. Before we get into this week in Conference USA, checking out our friends and foes. So let's share that screen, Kevin. I'm just going to say it right now. It was kind of an ugly week for both of us with predictions. I'm just spoiler alert, but let's get into what happened. So starting off, Middle Tennessee beat Kennesaw by a score of 14-5. Does it say 5? They put up 5 points. Oh, Kennesaw, man. Just, you had the perfect opportunity. It felt like a Maction game where Kennesaw could finally get their first win, and they didn't. Middle Tennessee didn't even look that good. They put up 14 points. Yeah. The defense was on it. They limited Kennesaw to 3 points. Kennesaw did get that safety, I think, very early in the game, but that was 5 points.
Yeah.
New Mexico State barely beats Louisiana Tech in double overtime. I actually did stay up and watch the end of that game, Kevin, and I couldn't believe it. Louisiana Tech, they kind of blew it. They let New Mexico State get back into it. It was the kickers made their shots, but it was very weird. But still, New Mexico State wins. Go Tech, please don't die is livid. And
he's dying.
That's just a tough loss for the Bulldogs. And then, like we had mentioned, Western Kentucky beat Sam Houston State by a score of 31-14. Kevin, I'm still very shocked at the way that game went. I thought that could have been the double overtime game, but no, this Sam Houston kind of fell apart in the end.
Yeah.
And then UTEP beats FIU. Anyway, with all that said, I finished with a record of 2-2. Kevin, you went 1-3. You took we were both on Louisiana Tech over New Mexico State, and we were obviously both on FIU over UTEP. You also took Kennesaw over Middle Tennessee. So, yikes! So let's get things going here. I have by the way, current season standings. I have a 37-13 record. Kevin, you have 32-18. So again, things could change. It's another new week of football as we get into the slate. So let's get right into it here. We'll obviously save the FIU game to the very end. UTEP, who are on a high right now, carrying Scotty Walden in the Sun Bowl. Now they got to go to Ruston, take on the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs, and I don't know. Where is it? Here we go. I don't know, Kevin. It's kind of a toss-up. Does UTEP have enough momentum to win on the road here? I'm going to say no. I'm still going to go with Louisiana Tech.
I'm going to go with Louisiana Tech just to be safe, but I wouldn't be shocked if Scotty Walden pulls out a second win.
Yeah, I know. So many people are calling for the Louisiana Tech's coach Cumbie to be fired, and if they lose to UTEP, that might be the deal breaker.
Yep.
So. Moving on now to the next game, Liberty's taking on Kennesaw State.
We can move on.
Let's just get Liberty. Yeah. All right, Middle Tennessee's taking on Jacksonville State now.
I will be choosing Jack State. I think you will as well, so we can move on and predict.
We can move on. It's just listen. That was it's a fluke win. What do you want me to say? It was a fluke win for Middle Tennessee over Kennesaw. They looked bad. Jacksonville State's offense still can look really great. So. Alrighty, same picks again, Kevin. You're finally learning from the boss how to pick correct games. Just kidding. Now, I think at this point, there's only one more question left to ask, Kevin. Who will win? Now, before we pick, let's let EA Sports decide. And oh my God, are you ready for a cinematic masterpiece? Let's go ahead and watch.
It came down to the final quarter, clutch plays, guys delivered, and they get a close win.
Yeah, Reese, big-time players make big plays in big games, and that's what happened in this circumstance. As a coaching staff, David, you love this. You know that you have confidence in your guys to go out and be able to execute when it matters the most.
Whoa, that was amazing. That was pure cinema, Kevin. Jenkins, by the way, all right, let's see how he did. 6 for 10, 99 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not too shabby. I think the big reason why they won that Sam Houston threw 2 picks. So, we'll see there. All righty, then. It's time to ask the final question here. Who will win, FIU or Sam Houston State? Kevin, as always, start off with you. Give me your prediction and the score.
Yeah, it's going to be a rough one for Sam Houston State. I'm going to take FIU, baby. Got to feel decent. I know it's not going to be an easy one. Definitely could see either team winning, but I think it'll be a very close game. FIU's an underdog at home. I feel like Q1 coming back. I think you got to feel good about that. Hunter Watson's going to be out. You're going to be down a receiver. You're going to be down a lot of, at least 100 yards of offense on the ground. Give me FIU winning 28. No. 17-14. It'll be a very low-scoring game. I think these are 2 really good defenses that will try to limit the run. It'll be a very close one, but give me FIU.
Good job, Kevin. You made all of FIU proud here. Now I'm going to step in and do the exact opposite because I'm sorry. I know it's the Vice festivities here and everything, but I don't know, man. I don't feel it in my heart to pick FIU right now. I know they have Keywan Jenkins coming back, and I know he's going to play good, but even then, I still think Sam Houston State is a little bit too well built, if you catch my drift, to lose a game like this. This is a team with Conference USA championship aspirations, and they realize how badly they can't afford to lose a game like this. So with that said, I'm sorry. Boo me if you want. Kevin, and anyone watching. I'm taking Sam Houston State by a score of 21-13.
That's
21-13. Again, I think we're both in on the being low scoring, which I think is good. I think not going to be a whole lot of points put up today, but yeah. Alrighty, fellas. There's a giveaway, Kevin. What's the giveaway?
Vice U bucket hat.
Vice U bucket hat. That I needed to complete the set, but still. Alrighty then, it's Vice Night. We always love Vice Night, and it's a nationally televised game on ESPNU. It's going to start at 7:30, and should be a lot of fun things happening throughout that game, and hopefully we're going to see FIU pull off a shocker against Sam Houston. So, Kevin, any final thoughts before we close up shop here?
No, there's only one thing left to say.
All right, there's nothing else to say, man, except for maybe 2 words. Before that, we'll see you for the halftime show, the postgame show. Paws up!
Paws up, baby!